Watchers in the fourth dimension.
Very confusing person to be with, Doctor, you know that?
Beauty I must have, but you are disposable.
Take a seat! I'm not gonna let you stop me now!
Hello and welcome back to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension. I'm Anthony.
I'm Diana.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Reilly. And so to boost morale, I will arrange for the execution.
This episode, we say goodbye to the Fifth Doctor in a story where only our TARDIS crew are nice people. Yes, it's the Caves of Androzani. But before we get into it, Diana's going to take a look at the mail. Over to you, Diana.
Thank you. Today, we are looking at the mail from The Awakening. And starting over on Facebook, Mark Dunstan writes that this is a great story. It really works as well and looks good on screen. But no score, which was a very common theme on comments for this story.
Come on, guys. We demand scores.
So, two people that comply with our demanded format are Kieran James Evans, who says, "Ooh, I like this one. Maybe it's VHS nostalgia from the double pack with Frontios. Maybe it's an extra draft or two, or a third episode that would have helped the watchers. But for me, I'm very happy with it. Plus, the 4 houses at my middle school were named after battles in the English Civil War." I was Naseby, red. 8 slices of toast from Little Hodcombe out of 10.
So 2 things. I remember that VHS double pack well. I think it was maybe the 3rd or 4th one to come out after the TV movie. It was great. And secondly, yes, I was in a house at school as well. Mine were named after founders of the school, basically. And I was in Glenesk, which was light blue.
British people and your weirdness.
Well, it came from boarding schools. So they had boarding houses. So each of the houses had a name. Quite why my school not having boarding anymore still had houses, I don't know, but it led to some fun inter-house competitions and rivalry.
I'm sure it did.
Oh, sorry, we're talking about Mordrin Undead here, right?
Over to our other score complier, we have Brian Moreau. This is one episode that is squarely in the middle. Not a classic and not a disaster. I'm so glad you mentioned Jane's Doctor, as it is one of the highlights in the episode for me. I tend to think poorly of the Malice face. I feel it looks like it comes from Peter Gabriel era Genesis.
Hey, I love Peter Gabriel era Genesis. That is not a bad thing.
Well, I hate the mini-me Malice too. I hate whenever the TARDIS is invaded or violated, and I hated when it collapsed into slime. Same. The anal part of me wanted a scene showing someone cleaning the mess up. I'm surprised there was no mention of the implied sexual assault when that guy says to Tegan to put on the costume or he'll put it on her himself. I guess it wouldn't be 80s Doctor Who without some kind of ick factor. We'll get to that in this episode.
We will.
I give the episode 4.5 shirtless old men out of 10.
Wow.
I get
Nice. Nice.
Over on Instagram, we have one score complier, and that would be Citrine Dragonfly, Gold Star.
Yay, Cat. Good job.
I saw this one on the Twitch stream a few years ago and thought it was fun. I loved the costumes and the pace worked for me. I'm with Anthony on this particular story. 8 out of 10 historical inaccuracies.
Love it.
Then we have our collection of no scorers. Shame.
Shame. Ding. Shame.
We'll start the shame list with Richard Elsley. Your talk about blockading the village made me think of a radio sitcom that Peter Davidson starred in. Welcome to our village. Please invade carefully. Where an English village is invaded by an alien race to get the measure of humanity. The village is cut off from the rest of the world. Somehow I forget why. Which sounds good, but I want to score. Similarly with Ben Flay. Remember this on broadcast freaked me out. Face in the wall, a great simple story, a nice filler. And finally, in the shame corner, Guy Lambert. Anthony, you folded to peer pressure. I'm ashamed of you.
Yeah.
Not really. You're all ace. And that's the mail.
All right.
Thank you, Diana. And as a reminder to our listeners, we really do love getting your feedback, thoughts, comments, and questions. And we do try to read out as many as possible on the show, providing we get them in time. So please do get in touch. You can contact us through Facebook and Instagram at Watchers4D, or you can email us at watchers4d@gmail.com. And you can also interact with us on our Discord server, and there is an invite link to that in the show blurb. Additionally, we would love it if you subscribe to the podcast if you're not doing so already, and if you dropped us a review or rating on your podcast platform of choice. So now let's head behind the scenes. When Eric Saywood joined the Doctor Who production office in the early 80s, he did what any new script editor would do. He looked backwards, and one name kept standing out: Robert Holmes. Holmes wasn't just a former script editor. He was the writer who had reshaped the tone of Doctor Who in the 1970s. Stories like The Talons of Weng-Chiang still lingered in Saywood's mind. And when talk began in 1982 about a massive 20th anniversary special, one that would unite every incarnation of the Doctor, Saywood had a clear favourite to write it. But not everyone agreed. Producer John Nathan Turner didn't love the idea. He'd inherited the show from earlier regimes and wasn't keen on reopening old doors. He eventually waved Holmes through, but Holmes himself balked. He didn't like juggling established characters, and his ambitious concept, the Six Doctors, quietly disappeared. Terence Dix's The Five Doctors would take his place. But Saywood wasn't quite finished yet. He went back to Holmes with a different offer: total creative freedom. One condition only: this story would end with the regeneration of the Fifth Doctor. Behind the scenes, the timing couldn't have been more precarious. Peter Davison had signed on for 3 years, believing season 21 would be his final bow. By March 1983, he confirmed it. No extension, no 4th year. He was restless, frustrated with recent scripts, and eager to move on. And then, almost domino-like, Janet Fielding and Mark Strickson followed suit. The TARDIS was about to empty out. Nathan Turner and Saywood now faced a logistical high-wire act. New Doctor, new companion, old companions leaving, and a regeneration they wanted before the season finale, to give viewers time to breathe. Davison wasn't thrilled. He felt his Doctor deserved the full 3 years. But the decision stood. Enter Robert Holmes, energized by the challenge. On May the 6th, 1983, he was commissioned to write a story initially called Chain Reaction. Early drafts didn't even involve poison. The Doctor simply burns out, worn down by violence and exhaustion. Holmes leaned into horror, pulling from the Phantom of the Opera, a familiar well he'd dipped into for the Talons of Weng-Chiang. By the summer, the title had changed to The Caves of Androzani, officially at least, because internally, Nathan Turner was playing a different game. On his planning board, the story was listed as The Doctor's Wife, a fake title designed quite deliberately to flush out someone who was suspected of leaking production secrets to the fan press.
What?
Yeah. The irony, that decoy title would later inspire an actual episode. Nearly 3 decades later, once again, Stephen Moffat taking from the JNT era. Saywood's changes to Holmes' scripts were minimal, but memorable. The Fifth Doctor's stick of celery? That's Saywood. So is the infamous Praxis Spectrum allergy, named after the typewriter Saywood was using at the time. The regeneration itself, though, and the quiet handoff to the Sixth Doctor, that was also Saywood's writing. Nathan Turner wanted spectacle, flashbacks, ghosts of companions past, echoing Logopolis. Some faces were cut over schedules and salary negotiations, but the idea stuck. Directing duties went to Graham Harper, a long-time Doctor Who veteran stepping into the role for the first time. His vision was stark, grounded, and violent. Real guns, real menace. He even dreamed big with casting: Tim Curry, Mick Jagger, David Bowie. But in the end, Sharaz Jek went to ballet dancer Christopher Gable, whose physical intensity became one of the serial's most haunting elements. Location filming was brief and brutal. 3 days in Dorset, standing in for the scorched surface of Androzani Minor, Nicola Bryant, dressed for heat, endured frostbite, while locals were paid to not shoot pheasants nearby.
Are those related?
They're not, but they're all part of the location shooting. Effectively, they shot in an area where there were a fair number of pheasant poachers, and because that was their day job, they literally had to be paid off to not do it.
It's the most English thing.
And then came the strikes. Industrial action once again shut down studio work, blowing the schedule wide open. The Caves of Androzani was forced into recording in January 1984, date meant for the introduction of the Sixth Doctor. Everything was tight. Everything was borrowed. Costumes weren't finished. Monsters like the notoriously awkward Magma Beast were barely wearable. The production fell behind and scenes were cut at the 11th hour. Even the opening TARDIS sequence vanished, replaced by voiceover work salvaged from location footage. And still, somehow, it came together. On January the 12th, 1984, recording wrapped with mere seconds to spare. Former companions appeared as hallucinatory visions. Nyssa returned, despite Sarah Sutton having chickenpox. The Master came back, and even Adric resurfaced. And then Colin Baker arrived to record his very first moments as the Doctor, wearing trousers he couldn't quite fasten. The Fifth Doctor's last episode aired 2 months later in March 1984. Davison would later admit he regretted leaving because now the scripts were good. Now the show felt right. But history had other plans. What emerged from exhaustion, compromise, and near collapse was something extraordinary. Not just a regeneration story, but a farewell. I'm leaning into actual podcast voiceover here.
Yes, you are. Wow.
And with that, we're heading into the short summary, which is with me this episode. Billionaires secretly run a corrupt government, including wielding unprecedented power over the army, while a wonder drug is all the rage amongst the elites. If you're reading the likes of Larry Ellison and Ozempic into that, you're actually wrong. It's not Trump's America in 2026, but the planet of Androzani Major in the future. Throw in a group of gun runners and a Phantom of the Opera type character who provides this story's objectification of Perry, and you actually end up with one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time, the Caves of Androzani. Oh, and we say farewell to the Fifth Doctor, obviously. And so with that, let's discuss this.
Wow.
I'm just trying to think of where to start.
Oh,
because
okay.
there's the part of me that just wants to be like, what did we do to Perry? Because that's the most crucial thing in my head.
Okay.
I actually think, and I'm going to give my entire thinking of this story away very quickly.
Because you did it in your summary?
Oh, I have to do this even more here because we're talking about Perry. Perry had to suffer this story because this story is about the Fifth Doctor giving up his life for a companion that he barely knows.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you count Big Finish shoehorning in 27 million stories in between Planet of Fire and the Caves of Androzani, this is the most Doctor thing ever.
Okay, actually, let's start there because I think it's actually relevant, right? When they come on screen for the first time, the Fifth Doctor and Perry, it feels like they've been together for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of tell that some things have gone on because of the banter that they already have.
Yeah, but she is equally still wearing the clothes from Planet of Fire. And I've realized so many of our companions have had uniforms during this time, but this is where we start moving away from that.
But there was still a dialogue between the two of them that shows that they've already learned kind of how to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
They're able to jibe at each other and not piss each other off, which is a huge change from how the Doctor's been communicating with his companions pre this point.
You know, speaking of how the Doctor communicates in this story, I noticed something. The Doctor is scripted as the Fourth Doctor. If you look at those lines that Davison says, he says them very differently to how Baker would, but they are lines that Baker would have been given. It's like Holmes does what Moffat does, where he writes for the Doctor. He doesn't write for the person. And that's what this entire era of the show has been missing, in my opinion.
For sure. I would 100% agree with you. I think that if I had gotten this Doctor throughout the rest of 5, I would have been so happy. Because the guy that showed up for this episode was a different dude.
And he was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. He was brilliant.
So good.
So good.
Yes. I didn't feel pissed off about the Fifth Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he felt comfortable. It's kind of funny how he really nails it.
Mm-hmm. Because they let a writer who understood the show write for the show again. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that up until this point, and I'm saying up until this point because I don't know how we're going to score this, our highest scoring story of the Fifth Doctor era was The Five Doctors, which was the only other story written by someone who had written before the JNT era.
And what is the highest rated Fifth Doctor story that doesn't have other Doctors in it?
Frontios.
Okay.
Which was also written by a former script editor who wrote for Tom Baker. So I think the problem we've had is we have had writers who don't understand how to write for the Doctor.
I guess this should be saved for the Davison retrospective, but even from the very beginning, it feels like they were so desperate to really do things differently with the show, and you could see them kind of fumbling around, and at sometimes it was okay, but it never was great, and now I guess they're like, okay, well, we're going to another Doctor now, so let's just...
Let's pull out all the stops.
Yeah, let's do it the old way. There you go.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the story. because I think this story hits hard right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Very early on, we have a bunch of exposition about the planet. So we find out about the planet's core being superheated primeval mud and occasionally erupts when Androzani Minor gets too close to Androzani Major. We have the Magma Beast taking out soldiers in the caves, and I would say the Magma Beast is the one production fuck-up of the story.
You shut your mouth. I loved that dinosaur armadillo.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a cool idea, but it does look like a rubber suit.
Shut up. He was so cute.
It also feels like it wasn't really necessary. I know they needed some ways of, providing more peril or more threat. I guess that's cheaper than doing more, plasma mud explosions. That's why they had it. But it didn't really feel very necessary because it was just there. And then I said, is this going to tie back in? And no, you'll see him again in, I think, the 4th episode.
I would have preferred if they brought in the bats.
Now, the bats were interesting. I would like to have learned more about them. I was kind of thinking that the magma monster, whatever you want to call him, I thought we were going to learn that he was just like the queen bat, a queen bat, a male bat. I don't know. One of them, some sort of connection here. He just seems like this random solo monster living around the caves.
Just to add an extra level of danger, basically.
Yeah.
But then we have the one plot point that drives the rest of the story. Perry falls down a hole in the caves and into a Spectrox nest. And at that point, the 5th Doctor's fate is sealed.
That's an interesting concept that I think would have been a lot more interesting to play with. I feel like there's just so much action going on. He doesn't have a chance to reflect on it, but it would have been a lot more interesting for the Doctor to be at a point where he knows he's dying and he knows it for a very long time. And he also recognizes that there's nothing he can do about it. That would be interesting. But when he gets told about it from Salatine and gets the full kind of exposition of it, he still is under the belief like, well, I can fix this. I can do this or I can do that. Nothing is impossible. It would have been more interesting to know that he was doomed from the very beginning and that he was perhaps hiding it in order to try to save everyone else. He does get to a point where I think in his mind, he realizes he's completely screwed and that he has to carry on. But it would have been a lot more interesting to, I don't know, maybe give him a monologue just to himself or something, having to deal with it. I don't know. I think that would have been more interesting.
I don't know, because I think it takes the standard Doctor Who story where everything is going to be all right and flips it on its head. So as far as the Doctor's concerned, he's spent so long fixing everything. And in this case, there's the mentality of there must be a cure for this. Well, there is, but there's only enough for one.
Just to piggyback off that, there is that sense that you as the viewer, there comes a point where he done fucked up. This is going to be a problem and he is not aware of it yet. And I think it's actually a very interesting place it puts the viewer to be aware that the Doctor's fucked before the Doctor realizes it.
Let's talk about some of the other elements here. We do finally get an explanation for the celery.
Yes, we do.
They know we needed it before he said bye-bye, and we got it.
And I wonder if we're ever going to deal with the Doctor having allergies again.
No.
But, it was a cute little thing.
Let's talk about the various players we're introduced to here, because we have what seem like disparate characters. So we've got Stotts and crew.
Stotts is one of... Wow.
He's such a bastard, and it's brilliant.
I really want to know the direction that he got, which was just, you play as batshit crazy and insane as you want, and this is how it's going to go. Because he just, wow.
I really enjoyed him, too. He is my kind of dirtbag. He's like my kind of scum. It feels like he's so unhinged and just revels and really enjoys violence, but not in a hammy, very, very campy way. It's a bit more grounded. He reminds me a lot of one of the gang members in RoboCop that shoots Murphy. Just that kind of complete sociopath that can find humor in murdering people. But like I said, it's not done with him like he's, twisting a mustache or it's really over the top. It feels a lot more approachable. And I don't know, maybe because he's got charisma. Does he have charisma? I don't know. He's like one of those people that you kind of like rooting for him because he's such a bastard. I don't know.
Yeah, fundamentally, there's nothing he won't do to get paid. He is the typical mercenary, and he is brilliant at playing that.
The thing, too, is that because he's doing it against unredeeming characters, you don't mind. Because everyone is terrible in this story.
Oh, they all suck. I mean, when Sharaz Jek is the most decent character you have.
He is absolutely not.
No. The lady who took Morgus's...
Oh, Timon.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll come back to... So, the Doctor and Perry being found among the gun stash of Stotts.
gun stash.
That leads us to Chelak and fake Salatine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
These names, man. Whew.
I do kind of like Chelak, and I really like Salatine. I mean, they're not nice people, but there's something about them I kind of like.
I like real Salatine. Uncontrollable laughter Salatine. I like him more than I like Android Salatine. Chelak, he feels kind of flat to me. Morgus, though, really enjoyable.
Hang on, we'll get to Morgus, but Chelak to me seems like your very typical upper-class British military leader.
Mm-hmm.
Very buttoned up, has a moustache because they have to have a moustache, and is following orders that he doesn't like, but sort of begrudgingly making it known that he doesn't like them. I mean, when he realizes that the Doctor and Perry are probably innocent, he's still going to follow the orders to execute them, because he knows if he doesn't, he's going to get killed by the machine, basically.
I enjoy Chelak.
I did too. Yeah. And props to the actor that did Salatine, because I enjoyed his android.
Oh, he was great. Robert Glenister, phenomenal. But that leads us into Morgus and Timon. And, oof, in this day and age, the billionaire with a massively overreaching control of government cuts a bit too close.
That's the world we live in. And it's what you have to do.
He's the smart calculating one. He's more Larry Ellison than Elon Musk, though.
Morgus had a real interesting look about him in that the hairline plus the ponytail, it kind of reminded me of, like, I think they're the Cardassians in Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
And also he had that same kind of brown, kind of earth tone outfit. Either that or the very receded hairline combined with the ponytail is a old Kids in the Hall character of he's hip, he's cool, he's 40. Character.
Hello, fellow kids.
Exactly. But Morgus was also interesting because he kept breaking the fourth wall, and I couldn't figure out if that's what is that what it looked like he was doing. I kept feeling like, is there someone else in the room with him? Because this is just why him.
I kept noting, who is he talking to?
Yes, and why is it him that's doing it? Why isn't anybody else that's doing it at this point then?
The original British version of House of Cards came out 6 years later than this. And as I was watching it, I had to go and look that up because I was thinking, had House of Cards already come out with, in the British version, Francis Urquhart, in the US version, much later, Frank Underwood, repeatedly breaking the fourth wall. And I'm almost wondering, did they get some inspiration from this? Because Morgus is that kind of ruthless that you see in House of Cards.
It has that playful bit of, here's a little secret, audience. You and I are in on this conspiracy because I'm an evil bastard and I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, but you and I will be in on this joke because no one else does.
It's different from what we've seen in Doctor Who before, and for some reason I really like it.
I think that I enjoy them doing something different. I would have preferred if there may have been an easier way to establish it because it's so shocking and jolting that maybe they should have done it a bit more in the serial, so then eventually you would get used to it and be like, oh, okay, he's just doing that thing.
But I think that's part of the point, is that this has been a very death-heavy season as well. And this is a very death-heavy episode, even though most of the deaths are technically off-screen. And I think it's intended to be very shocking. I think it's one of the things that I think is interesting when you compare it to like the modern world and being able to have that foresight, because there are many things in here that tickled me about its application into the current world. And I think that cutting into the breaking the wall, because they do it several times, and not just with him. It's in any of these moments where it's the heightened moment of pure evil, where they cut into these very odd close-ups with these dramatic lighting moments where it's either breaking the fourth wall or very, very close. And I think that it's a very interesting editing style that I really appreciate and I'd like to see more of.
I actually want to give a huge shout out to Graham Harper, the director on this. He is the only director to have directed both classic and modern Doctor Who.
Oh.
He comes back for Revelation of the Daleks next season, but then in Series 2, the first Tennant series, he will handle Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel and Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. In season 3, 42 and Utopia, he'll do Time Crash, so he'll get to work with Peter Davison again. And then in series 4 and the Tennant specials, he would do Planet of the Ood, The Unicorn and the Wasp, Turn Left, The Stolen Earth, Journey's End, and The Waters of Mars.
Good Lord, that's a lot.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And think about some of those stories. Those are often seen as some of the best. And we're seeing one of the best directors of modern Who starting out here. And he had really been the guy who had done a lot of the work on Warrior's Gate without getting credited as well.
Oh.
There were a couple of things, and I think it was mostly in part 3 or part 4 that I didn't particularly care for, but I did appreciate most of the choices, and I think I understand where some of the other ones came from, but I just thought there was a few that just seemed just a little bit off to me.
Well, let's come back to that when we get there. I want to hear about them though, Julie. So hold that thought.
I will. It's right here.
Well, we talked about all the characters so far, all the main ones, other than Jek now. We haven't really gone in depth on him.
And we don't get anything on Jek until quite late in the episode. But when we do, I want to come back to the direction here because our first shots of him, we get the close-up on the hands. It tracks with the camera. The hand that lingers on Perry on the screen. And we don't get to see his full face for a while. And even when we do, it's in a reflection. I love that introduction to him.
That is one hairy hand.
Oh, I was trying to decide if it was prosthetics or not.
Right. Was it done for the character or is that the person?
Right. Or if it was the person's hand. And I determined that their use of prosthesis is nowhere near skilled enough for it to look that real.
I wanted to take a shower every time he was on screen.
That's what he's meant to make you feel like.
Yes, he's absolutely brilliant. And what I actually appreciate it because so often the Phantom from the Phantom of the Opera gets romanticized and people are like, ooh, the Phantom. And it's like, no, the Phantom was a terrible human being who killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that they went more book version than anything else.
Yeah. And even then, in this story, he's the one who was really fucked over by Morgus.
Yep.
And his creepiness is a function of that he is so disfigured, he can only be around androids. And that's, I'm not saying it's right, don't get me wrong, but that's what leads him into his obsession with Perry.
Yes, but additionally, he cops at the end to the fact that he used to be a partner with Morgus.
Yeah.
And so we've seen what kind of person Morgus is. And so I don't think we can blame the fact that he was burned alive, which is terrible and awful and is definitely trauma that affects the psyche. But there's no way to know that he wasn't a terrible predator before he was scalded either.
That's true.
Because he comes from a pretty nasty group of people.
He may have just been a handsome predator instead of a hideously disfigured predator.
And I really don't have any sympathy or pity for him.
No. It's one of those situations too, right? Where, okay, yes, he's disfigured and all of that. I struggle sometimes with that one. I know it's never easy when something like that has happened to individuals. I'm not trying to play it off as some sort of thing, but every once in a while I'm like, there's got to be some people of compassion or who simply don't care for this type of thing on this planet because it must be like millions of people. And it always just kind of interests me when they decide that they need to go rogue and must live by themselves.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is about permanent disfigurement that turns so many people into sexual predators in cinema. But that's not a thing that happens to like anybody.
Yeah.
That's not a natural repercussion of disfigurement. Because there are a lot of real repercussions of being permanently scarred.
It's
so lazy.
It's a lazy little bit about doing the whole, like, they crave beauty because they don't have it.
Right. And it's completely unnecessary because they could have made him still very scary. He could just give serial killer vibes. You know, he didn't have to be a sexual predator. It's so openly.
And the irony is, Christopher Gable was actually a fairly good-looking guy. So they've disfigured him when he's actually quite handsome. But yeah, I mean, candidly, and I'm going to give you all a little bit of a taste of things to come. This happens a lot to Perry, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the objectification of Perry is a bit of a trope in her era in classic Doctor Who.
Is this the part that's for the dads?
This is the part that's for the dads.
They like the sexual predator. Oh, it's so uncomfortable. Because that's what it felt like. And that's part of why I hated it so much.
I almost wonder if that's putting a mirror up on it of, oh, you've been objectifying this woman since last story. This is what you come across like, you motherfuckers.
It didn't feel that nuanced to me. It felt like we were doing this for the joy of watching Perry suffer.
Yeah.
And that was difficult because it was every scene for her was like the threat of sexual assault.
And that was the thing too, right? Because when you look at it from the doctor's perspective of trying to save her from dying, I really appreciate that aspect of it. And I will say there was one moment when Jek was in the process, I guess we could say, of objectifying her. And the doctor steps in, and it's one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen Davidson do. And I really appreciated that scene. But the fact that he had to do that made me very uncomfortable.
And then they followed it up with Perry jumping when the doctor put his hand on her shoulder. And it was just that continued sense of there is pleasure watching Perry be at such risk that really ruined that character for me because other than that, that's the big pitfall in this episode. Everything else is so good.
And I do think that's part of hammering it home. Perry is so tense in this situation that even when the doctor puts his hand on her shoulder, she freaks out because she doesn't realize it's him because he's coming from behind. Jek has made her feel that uncomfortable.
And, you know, that is real. The way that Bryant really did work with her character in this, I think is really commendable from that front, because I think that's part of the reason why it was effective and made me feel as awful as I did watching it, is that the actors are fucking killing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so relatable and it was so real. You know, women all over and men, everybody, so many people have been in situations like that, and especially for women. And I really felt like that was very powerful for it to be played so authentically, but I still didn't need it in the story. And it was still too upsetting.
On a lighter note, Jek dresses like he's a gimp.
Oh, he sure does. I kept him in my notes as Slade Wilson because he was giving me DC vibes.
His mask is really interesting because it has a bit of artistic flair to it. It could have just easily been black on one side or black all over or just white all over, but they did it in like the black goes into the white, very...
Well, he wants to be beautiful.
I guess so. Very modern.
He gave that fake eyelashes.
It's great costuming. I'm very torn over this character because, Diana, a lot of what you say makes sense, right? How he is creepy as hell, how much he sets Perry on edge, and how much Perry is being effectively tortured in this story.
See, this is why I'm glad that Bowie was not able to do this, because if he was in that costume, it wouldn't have worked. He would have been too sexy.
Yeah.
We would not have been able to like break our minds away from who Jek is really, and we'd just be like, that's one sexy looking person there.
No, sexy people can still be sexual predators. It would have still been gross.
Yeah. But I mean, I think as a character, there's that element of you want to look at him and there's something compelling about him, but there's also something very, very awful about him. And I think he is, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, a big reason as to why this story is so good.
For sure. I can see that.
Let's talk about the Doctor and Perry getting executed for gun running.
Yes. And I think the best thing there, and I'm so glad they gave her that line, the just get on with it line, really hardcore line there. Good job of really still letting us, the audience, come to know a person we just met.
And in this instance, them getting shot by the firing squad, we don't know that that's not them. And that's our cliffhanger into part 2.
I mean, we do know. We just don't know how.
But we get a nice short reprise, so Julie's happy.
All of them are pretty short. One of them was a little long, but I understood. So, good recaps.
I do actually want to talk about the president here, because we don't get to know him that well, but he actually seems like he might not be as much of a bastard as everyone else.
Just slightly.
Yeah, I mean, his government's in Morgus's pocket, and the president knows it, but he does want things done the right way, it seems.
Well, he also wants his connection to his drugs.
Yes, he wants his GLP-1s. I say that as someone who is on a GLP-1. I'll make that clear. Full disclosure from Anthony here.
It's pretty clear that Spectrox, when they mention that it has life-extending properties, I don't know if it provides a high, but it very much is similar to the spice melange from Dune.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I read that too.
And which is also very clear, like we have a limited resource, it is the most valuable resource, and apparently it's only available on this planet. So yes, very similar to Dune in that regard.
And there's discourse between the president and Morgus that shows how much of an absolute bastard Morgus is. Morgus makes a comment about unemployed riffraff, and the president says, yes, so many people are unemployed because you closed your plants. And then Morgus is like, well, let's just send them to the Eastern labor camps, which Morgus owns. So they would now be at labor camps without payment, as the president says. And Morgus is like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And the president's like, of course you hadn't. He has a perfect read on Morgus. He knows what he's dealing with.
Yeah, but he holds all the cards, or all the Spectrox.
Technically, Jek holds all the Spectrox, I think.
Yes. It's funny, I guess, because it would have been tough for censors, but I don't really recall, do we see anyone consume the Spectrox?
Yes.
The president, I remember Morgus saying that we should give the president before he arrives like 10 centiliters or something, or milliliters, or...
We see the president drinking something from a vial, and I think later when Jek gives Perry something from a vial, I think that's also meant to be Spectrox.
That would make sense. That would make sense for him to do that there, because that would have been at a point where she's so far gone in the infection that he's just trying to do anything.
And, you know, it's meant to have rejuvenating properties, so why not? So yes, we do.
And we have one of my favorite scenes, and we had already mentioned our appreciation of him, but Stotts with his own band of mercenaries.
Oh, where he threatens Krelper.
He forces him to take that poison, or what that person believed to be poison. Everyone recognizes what Stotts is going through. He's trying to properly pill a dog or a cat right there, and it's just a very difficult thing to do.
Is it my imagination, or when he had the knife to his throat and was trying to get him to swallow, did Stotts call Krelper a slut?
There are some really interesting terms thrown about in this, and things that were really weird on language. For example, the doctor says that she has urticaria, which I was like, urticaria? Did they make that up? No, that's just a fancy term for hives. But I guess we couldn't say hives because that's just too basic sounding. But they do that repeatedly.
Robert Holmes loves his flowery dialogue.
Some of them definitely had more flowery language than others. Stotts had a little bit. Kelper didn't have as much. Morgus was a lot, but then obviously Jack was all over the place with his language. Oh my goodness.
It almost seems like it was to signify an increase in class ranking.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only connected it while Julie was listing them out. But when you put Morgus and Jek having just an unending use of SAT words.
Morgus, Jek, and the Doctor, we all know the Doctor is meant to be absurdly intelligent. Yeah, it's interesting how that's done. And I think it shows a lot about Holmes and the way he layers this. I want to talk a bit more about the direction, particularly when we head into Jek's lair and we actually get the Doctor and Perry interacting with him. Firstly, Jek being even more creepy towards Perry. My immediate reaction was, Alex, what is incel? But some of the direction here is really interesting. There is such an extreme close-up between the Doctor and Jek, and they are closer than anyone might naturally be.
Yes.
They did that for...
sexual tension.
Well, they did that with Morgus and Frau, what's her name?
Timon.
Yeah. They did that with Morgus and Timon, and that was some Bridgerton shit. Like, you thought they were going to kiss in the elevator while they're talking about a blown-up mine.
I know I'm horrendously late to the party, but I've just started watching Bridgerton, and absolutely.
Oh my God, we'll text.
Yes.
I'm only at the end of season 1.
Oh, bless your heart.
I haven't finished the new season, but that was one of my things was with some of those close-ups, it didn't make a lot of sense. I really liked it with the Doctor and Jek because I think that they're the two that are most at odds, right? Other than Morgus and their little fight at the end. But the one with Tennant didn't make as much sense to me. I don't know if they were just trying to draw parallels of just how like close they work together, except it seemed like it was trying to infer that it was not just working, but then why would she do what she did at the end? right?
Yeah.
Some of them seemed a little off, but that wasn't the one that was most weird to me.
I did wonder if the Doctor and Jek were about to kiss, but it's interesting because in the dialogue here, Jek basically says, I will sell them Spectrox if they give me Morgus's head.
Yes. Yes.
So you have effectively this billionaire who has the government in his pocket. The government wants Spectrox. They're getting it from Morgus, but they could just cut out the middleman and deal direct with Jek.
Right. It sounds like quite a fair deal. The head of one person for an entire planet to get all the Spectrox they want.
The head of someone completely corrupt who it seems like there's a file being built around the whole time.
I think Jek needs to get his message straight to the people. That's his problem. He needs to tell them so they can get like a revolt going.
I think he needs to talk direct to the president because the president sort of makes it fairly clear that he doesn't trust Morgus and knows Morgus is a wrong'un.
Well, and that's why he gets pushed down an elevator shaft.
Yes, exactly. Which is equally his undoing in the end. It's very well plotted out. Let's talk about real Salatine, because this is where we meet him.
Oh, yes.
Initially, he's like, well, now you're here. Jek will kill me because he doesn't need me. And then he finds out they have Spectrox toxemia. Oof.
And then the laughing begins.
It's glorious.
Right, which to me is like, okay, I get you. Good turn for the character. Okay, it's running on a bit too long here. We can wrap it up.
No, I love the laughing. Keep it going forever.
Yeah, I do too.
I would watch 2 hours of Robert Glenister just laughing at the camera.
I mean, that may be a little long, but I was happy
it
with what
probably
was
would.
in the episode.
And we get our exposition. We need to get the milk from a queen bat in order to cure them of this toxemia. And I would like to point out my wife while watching this, this episode, she was walking around and she heard Salatine say, in regards to the plasma monster, magma monster, what do you want to call him? Quote, nobody's ever run into one and lived to talk about it. All they ever find are its table leavings. And she's like, what is it with the English people? Why can't they just call it scraps? I can't call it scraps, right? It's got to be table leavings.
Mrs. Shrek, you and I will talk.
And I told her, I was like, I think it's because scraps is probably some English slang for genitalia. Probably.
It's not, but I do like that. I might start using it. It feels like it needs to be specifically in a Cockney accent as well.
Yes, it does. It does. I mean, and once again with the language, table leans, prattling jackanapes. I mean, good Lord, it's just all over in this serial everywhere. But yeah, Salatine tells them, and we have our setup for what we have to do.
We do. We also get the key exposition that the androids are programmed to kill humans on sight unless they're ordered not to, or if the human is wearing one of the belts.
Oh, the belts.
The magic belts.
I love the belts. I love the belts so much. Also, the androids, I thought looked really, really cool, especially their masks. It reminded me, and if you remember this, Anthony, the foot soldiers in the English fantasy film Kroll. They had that same kind of circular, kind of just black hole, like in the middle of their face kind of thing. Looked very cool.
I think I've blanked most of that movie out of my memory, but it rings a bell. I do not have the same love for it you do, Reilly. But when we get the burning androids later on, those look really cool. That's really well done. I'm just going to say it here. I've missed Robert Holmes. I know we gave him a hard time over how he refused to write parts for women because he felt like he couldn't write for women, but there's an elevated quality to these scripts.
So that's why there was still a lack of women. Okay.
Got it. The Perry subplot makes sense.
And Timon, I think, if I recall correctly, was originally written as a man.
Of course.
Color me surprised.
I could be misspeaking because I don't remember for sure. And I think that was once again a directorial decision to cast a woman in a role that was written for a man, which is, oh, surprise, surprise. It then works because you're not really writing for a man. You're writing for a person, and women happen to be people.
Surprise.
Yeah. Surprise, 50% of watchers of the fourth dimension are people, in addition to the other 50% who, according to Robert Holmes, were people to begin with.
Okay.
What?
Anyway, thanks for that aside. I really needed that.
We get a lot of back and forth here around weapons and the Doctor and Perry being stuck until they escape. And they get cornered by an android. Salatine destroys the android, but then the magma beast shows up and the doctor's split from them because he's injured. And that's the end of part 2, and we're into part 3.
Yeah, and part 3, we haven't talked about the music, but we're doing synth, but I think the synth is good this time. I really do. And for some reason, it was reminding me of the synth in Blade Runner.
Yeah, I hear that.
And I thought it was well placed. Yeah, I thought that was a very good part. And also, I think at this point, we're starting to see a bit of the toxemia effects. And I think they did a very good job of the rash on his hand. And later on in part 4, you saw Perry's legs, like, whoa, it was looking pretty rough there with all the growths and stuff. So they did a good job with that.
Yeah, I take back my comments about special effects makeup because it was pretty rad in this episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, hell, it's not till part 4, but when Jek's mask comes off, good lord, his face. Oof.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's not scream and horror inducing. But,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it looks like it was pretty painful.
If you're not expecting it, by the time Perry screams her head off, she is incredibly sick.
Oh, for sure. She's fever dreaming. But I think we can anticipate that most people won't scream.
I do love how, in part 3, Stotz has decided to follow Jek to try and get the Spectrox, encounters the magma beast, and Stotz tries to blame it on Jek. And Jek is like, my dude, you're the one who decided to follow me. This is not my fault. And he's right.
Right.
Not his fault.
And you get that lovely line of, paraphrasing, curiosity leads to death, and then pops up the doctor. And I loved it.
So this was the point where I think some of the shots were weird because it seemed like they were almost going to be perspective shots from somebody because of, like, it was oddly placed in a back left corner. And there was like weird, I guess, shadows over Jek. And maybe that was done on purpose. But that just seemed very weird to me because whenever it would switch perspective, it would be like what I would normally see out of Doctor Who. And then it went over to a different view that I'm just not used to.
We have a director here who's innovating.
Oh, yeah, and I'm just saying that I just found it a little bit jarring because it's a little bit odd to me.
I get that.
That's it.
Can we talk about the absolute brutality that the Doctor gets exposed to?
Absolutely.
Well, firstly, he's flippant towards Jek, and then Jek smacks him round the face, and then tells the androids to tear off his arms until he tells him where Perry is. He tells him the truth. Jek still threatens him, and it's when he says, I think she's with Salatine, that basically Jek says, all right, I'm done with you. Stotz, do what you want with him. I mean, these people are very, very nasty indeed, because Stotz then says, when we get back to Major, you're going to wish the androids had finished the job. Damn.
And because we've already seen that kind of one of the best of the group, the guy that's in charge of the underground base, I forget his name,
Chelak,
did the execution when he was reasonably sure that they were innocent. It heightens that stress that these people are worse.
Oh, yes.
And I thought it was a really effective second act danger that, like, you know, obviously you know he's going to get out of it, but you know that he's dying. You know that he may not be aware of like how close, because you're getting those interstitials with Perry being way farther gone.
It really leads to that desperation on the part of the Doctor that you see building really through part 3 and then all through part 4. He has to save Perry. That becomes his sole focus, even though he is also dying. It's so well done.
Yeah, and I guess we should talk about our part 3 cliffhanger.
Well, I almost want to talk about Morgus, because up until this point, Stotz has just ambiguously referred to the boss.
Oh.
And once the Doctor is chained up on the flight deck of Stotz's ship, and firstly, I love that pink lighting on that flight deck. It looks phenomenal. It's not what you would normally see. I think in Doctor Who, on a flight deck, it would normally be horrendously overlit, and this gives it a slightly different quality. But at that point, you get the call between Morgus and Stotz, and you realize that Morgus is Stotz's boss. And Jek, the whole time, has effectively unknowingly been selling Spectrox to the man he hates with a passion. This whole situation is so messed up.
It was one of those where I kind of saw it coming.
Right.
But also it was like really, really fun to get that reveal.
Yeah.
It was still a good time.
And this is the start of Morgus just spiraling, because at this point he thinks the Doctor must be a government spy. The president must have told the Doctor to fake the execution. What's going on here? They're on to me. And this incredibly tight operation he's been running, he starts to spiral out of control in paranoia, which leads to his downfall. It's great. It's really great. I really missed Robert Holmes.
Yeah, I thought it was tied off. It was a nice circular plot where everything fitted in together really nicely. It was really beautifully scripted.
There's one thing about Jek here. I know we've talked about how much of a creeper he is. When he kidnaps her, he puts a handkerchief to her mouth. He's literally using Rohypnol to drug her. And he does apologize for it later, but it's quite on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, we're continuing down that path. I really hate it when they make the danger of the companion more sexual in nature than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
We saw some of that way back in Caves of Androzani even, and it still is rubbing me the wrong way. But towards the end, this end part with Jek trying to save Perry, it felt better at the end than it did through parts 1 through 3.
And here's the thing, and feel free to disagree with me. I don't feel like Jek is ever going to rape Perry. He is creepy, he is uncomfortable, he is obsessive, but equally, I think he's more likely to play the long game of you will fall in love with me eventually than to force himself on her. Is it uncomfortable to watch? Absolutely.
Yeah, I did not get those vibes.
So the problem is people think that, and then there's a breaking point way sooner than they think.
Yeah, to put it in blatant terms, it was rape or death for Perry by his hands. At that point, I was like, the whatever toxin is the best option here. Because he even gave me like, I'm going to keep her after she dies vibes.
Yeah. I mean, there's that line he says where now I can feast my eyes on your delicacy and forget the pain and blackness in my mind. I mean, that's amazing dialogue, but incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I would have been even happy with like a serial killer obsessed with perfection, even if the ending was going to be death. I would rather it be some kind of weird artist perfection vibe rather than the sexual predator we got. The groping and the touching.
He sniffed her hair at one point.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was just, which is really too bad because otherwise it was such a good character.
Before we move on from part 3, this is also where Morgus kills the president. Tells him there's a plan to assassinate him, feels very House of Cards again, and then pushes him down the lift shaft.
And then has the engineer shot for it. Come on.
Yeah.
And to bring it kind of relevant to the point, we kind of skipped over the scene where they talk about the mine explosion. And I really appreciated his callous, we'll do thoughts and prayers. That'll work. That'll be effective.
Everyone, 1 minute of silence. Wait, no, 30 seconds.
Ooh, that was really funny.
We end with the Doctor getting loose and going to basically do a very, very rough landing back on Androzani Minor, and Stott's breaking in, the Doctor being super, super snarky with him. And as Stotts threatens to kill him, he is so determined to save Perry, and he just says, I'm not going to let you stop me now. And that's our cliffhanger. And holy shit, this is the best the Fifth Doctor has ever been.
And that is an excellent cliffhanger. Even the special effects were good when they were using a acetylene torch or laser, whatever you want to call it, to cut through the steel to get into the room with him. That looked good. I was like, wow, that looks really good. And you're right. This is the Fifth Doctor, hilariously, is at his best at the end.
That's why I really, really thought, Reilly, that it might be the last story where you said he was finally the Doctor.
Well, if it was a lot of pressure, I'll say that. That was building up. And obviously, I would have said that if I had no idea what I was getting into with Caves. But yes, absolutely. If I had not have already said yes before, I would have said yes now. He's excellent in this.
Part 4, we have our crash landing. The Doctor is on the run through that beautiful quarry, which we haven't mentioned yet. So quarry +1. And all of the stakes are real fucking high at this point.
Yeah, we have the timer element of when the disease will finish them off, or the infection, excuse me. And I think at this point we have, which I thought was darkly humorous, where we have, is it Chelak and Salatine? It's like, it's okay. We've got the special belts with the special little things on them. It's totally fine. And just mows them all down.
Jek knows what's going on, and so he's reprogrammed the sequence. I mean...
That was, unfortunately, it's hard in scenes like that, because that is a very good plot development. And that's something I feel like could have been done in a more heart-pulling, dramatic, shocking kind of moment, but instead it just felt humorous to me. And I think maybe, I don't know who else I heard when I mentioned that also felt that, I guess. There was a bit of humor there when that happened.
There was.
I just had to imagine like how embarrassed Salatine must have felt like.
Well, he was dead. So
yeah, I know, but I mean, as he's dying, it's just like, oh god, do I feel stupid? Like, come on, everybody, the belt works, it's totally fine. And then, oh man.
The other thing going on here, I love what's going on between Stotts and Morgus. So Morgus is busted, and he's like, I'm going to go and take Jek's private hoard of Spectrox, and we'll split it 50-50.
Yeah, I love that because my headcanon, I have a headcanon about this. I can do it too, Anthony, not just you. Morgus says, yes, well, if they can carry 50 kilos each, that's 100 to share between us. And then strangely, with a very peculiar delivery, Stott says, you mean us? And my headcanon? They've been secret lovers this entire time. And when Stott says, you mean us? They're going to come out to everyone like, yes, we're together. We're a pair.
I'm going to take that, but I'm going to go, Stotts wants them to be lovers. And that's the, wait, are we going to kiss moment?
Okay, guys. All right.
I think to appropriately bring it into the modern world, it has to be Morgus that is more curious in the relationship.
But I do love their back and forth. It's just a bunch of two bastards basically rubbing their hands together like, yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to do that.
I want to talk about Timon, though, because that lady...
Oh, yeah.
What she exudes there at the end of just how cleverly she pulled that off. Oh.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not physically attracted to Timon, but that was hot.
It was so good.
The only thing that would have been better, you know, she's sitting at his desk, putting out an absurd amount of sass, if she was smoking one of his cigars.
Yeah, and wearing sunglasses, and then like flashed a sign, a gang sign, and said "peace out." And
no, that's taking it too far. No, she just needs
just the cigar.
Yeah, just like one more thing of his stuff that she's claiming, smoking his cigar.
I thought that part was brilliant, and if you are correct in that they had cast a man for that role, I would have been extremely disappointed because it wouldn't have felt the same.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't have. And she was glorious.
That works so much better because Timon is a woman.
Yeah.
All right, Stotts' men. They refuse to help. Morgus calls them cowardly, miserable curs. I really like cur as an insult. I might start using it.
It is.
Yeah.
And then Morgus and Stotts go to leave, and Stotts goes back and guns them all down and smiles once he's done it.
And the best thing about it is the physical acting there, the expression on his face is like a guy that walks out and then he says, you know what? I'm going to turn right back in and tell them something really, really funny. That's what it felt like.
As a bastard, he is incredible. Weirdly, he would later appear in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation as a Romulan. So,
well, then he's not going to be able to have that kind of flair about him, is he, really?
I mean, still playing bastards.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chalak gets to Jek's HQ because Jek is losing the war, and Jek pushes Chelak into the mudburst.
Right, well, wait a second. We have our fight.
Between Morgus and Jek?
No. Jek and Chelak.
Yes, there's a little bit of a fight, and Chelak gets Jek's mask up, and we don't see it just yet.
Right, but then it's Chelak's reaction which got me, which is like, you're in a fight to the death, and you're going to let something like a person's face, no matter how disfigured it might be, throw you? What the hell?
Yeah.
It can't be that bad. I mean, come on.
That's the scream. I mean, I think it's interesting because there's probably only so much they could do in a show that's going out at 5:30.
Right, but I'm just saying, just don't have Chelak do that. But I guess they wanted to build the suspense more until they finally showed it.
Exactly.
And they needed to get rid of Chelak, and that distracted him enough for him to get pushed out the door.
But what was interesting after that was that I did like the turn with Jek, because once that happened and then Perry sees him without the mask, I thought he was going to go just completely murderous, kill everyone, everything, like completely violent. But instead, he kind of crawls away and starts sobbing, which I thought was a much more interesting turn for the character.
He knows he's hideous, but he doesn't like to be reminded of it. And I think that's what drives that reaction.
And when it comes from Perry as opposed to Chelik, those are two very different people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good turn. I thought he would just be angry at his situation, angry at the world kind of thing, and just flip out and just try to kill her or something right then. But no, crawling away and crying. Good turn. Good character moment.
Yeah, it was a lot more of an interesting choice. I agree.
So the Doctor comes to Jek's lair. I'm going to call it a lair. It seems appropriate.
It does kind of look like the back of an electronics store, but, like a repair store.
Obviously, Perry's dying. The Doctor's going to go off in search of Professor Jackage's cure. And even though he can store oxygen for several minutes, Jek gives him the oxygen cylinder. Up until this point, Jek has seen the Doctor almost as a threat around Perry. And suddenly he's pivoted to this, okay, she's close to death. I'm going to do everything I can to save her. And he's doing everything he can to take care of her, giving her a little bit of Spectrox. The motives are not pure, but to an extent, he's keeping her just alive enough for the Doctor to eventually save her.
Right. Then we have the Doctor going, based off of the graphics on the Commodore 64, he knows exactly where to go in the caves to go to the Queen Bat, which I think Julie brought this up. I think Julie's probably in my same mindset. And that is, I am not a biologist, but I'm pretty sure that a creature to produce milk has to be alive. And the Queen Bat does not look like she is alive. She looks like she is flat dead.
There's a comment that she's hibernating.
Hibernating.
Oh, how convenient.
That's why she's so deep.
Yeah, they say that they go down there to die. So it's in the process of dying.
But then how is she producing milk?
Well, because she had a baby and that grew up into a giant armadillo dinosaur.
I have a question.
That was kind of when we were talking earlier about the pointlessness of those guys. I wish they had been like the soldier guard of Queen Bat's brood, because that would have given her a reason to be having milk.
Right.
Separate note, Reilly, it's cute that you think that's a Commodore 64 when it's so clearly a BBC Micro.
Ugh, nerds.
Okay. So anyway, the Queen Bat, I thought, despite the fact that it looked like it was dead, its appearance looked good. I was kind of really hoping it would move around a little bit, but I guess that would have destroyed the illusion. But it looked very good. And then the Doctor, well, he starts on his way coming back. But before that, that's when we have our Morgus Jek battle as the Doctor is trying to come back.
Yes, he's on his way back and it cuts to Morgus getting into Jek's base. And there's that fight between Morgus, Jek, and Stotts.
And then we have our audience reveal of Jek's face.
Yes. And, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
And I think it's as far as they can take it for the time slot. If this was a 10 p.m. show, we'd see something far more hideous.
It was interesting because throughout the story with his mask on, which you can see his lips around his eye, and also since the mask is not form-fitting, you can kind of see angles underneath and stuff. His skin tone looks regular. But then when he has his mask off, I swear they added like an extra green tone to him.
Oh, they definitely did.
Which I thought was like, I don't know, it felt unnecessary.
They hadn't settled on the makeup plan for him until the last day of shooting.
And this scene I actually really like. So just as Jek is about to kill Morgus, Stotts shoots him. Android Salatine shows up, kills Stotts. Jek gets Morgus into the device that kills him, and then Jek collapses into Salatine's arms where he dies. I almost think real Salatine was built as the person that Jek kept around for company until Perry showed up. There's almost something romantic that Jek then dies in his greatest creation's arms, who happens to look like the person he was keeping for company.
Yeah, it is it's very interesting blocking and staging for that. One, with the death of Morgus, I thought that looked really cool, like as he was in between, I guess, those two plasma lamps or whatever you want to call it. But then you're right, it's such a very distinct look for him to literally just kind of drop. And if I remember correctly, the android Salatine, his arms are just kind of at a 90-degree angle and they're just stuck out, and he's just kind of hanging on him by his armpits. And you're right, it's a very interesting look, but it's good.
And just as that happens, the Doctor comes in behind, gets Perry, carries her to the TARDIS.
Has a whole Sam and Frodo moment.
So I don't know why he didn't just give Perry the cure there and then move her.
Yeah,
That's the one weird piece of plot where I'm like, wait, at this point where she is so close to death, give her the fucking antidote now. Don't wait for the 10, 15 minutes or however long it's going to take you to get to the TARDIS.
Well, the mud explosions, that's the reason, right?
Yeah.
Because no reason of giving it to her if you're just going to get blown up. You got to get out of there.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there was a lot of just stuff going on. So he was like, I need to get somewhere safe. So he goes to the TARDIS.
Yeah, because the lair seemed to be at risk for collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
So we get into the TARDIS, controls are in motion, they dematerialize just as the mud burst really, really gets going. We get the cure into Peri's mouth, but there's only enough for her. And she revives just as he's dying.
So I have a question. With him saying, I don't know if I'm going to regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why would he ask that?
Weird.
Because at this point, the rules of regeneration have not been fully established. This is a poison for which he does not have a cure, and he has no idea of the effect that's going to have on him. I think if this were to happen now, that line wouldn't be there. But at this point, our regenerations have been caused by the Doctor's body just wearing out,
Time Lords,
massive radiation, Time Lords, and falling from a great height.
Massive radiation. This feels similar enough to that.
Yes. That's almost setting up something to come next story.
Well, he also, just to back up Julie's point here, which I thought was weird, is not only does he say, I might regenerate, I don't know, he then says, feels different this time.
Mm-hmm.
So he sounds like he has the expectation to regenerate, but because it feels different, he's not sure.
Yeah, that might be it too.
Now, why did we have to get Ainley again?
Hang on, before we talk about that, I just want to hammer it home. I do like the idea that the Doctor and Peri are still fairly new to each other, because there is something incredibly doctorish about him giving up his life for someone he barely knows. Anyway, on to the regeneration scene. Yes, we get cameos from all of Five's companions, which I really enjoyed.
Okay, all right. I have a slight rant here. Okay. One, if you're going to go with the heads of people of the past spinning around kind of thing, try not to have them appear like they're coming out of his mouth.
Minor production issue.
And two, as they come out, the third one out is Kamelion. Are you fucking kidding me? Not Nissa, not even fucking Adric, it's Kamelion?
It took me a second to realize even who it was. I was like, who the fuck is that?
Same.
That is insane. That is insane. I thought as it was happening, I was like, oh, I guess they couldn't get them. Oh, nope, there they are. Why?
Yeah, questionable decision from Saywood there. I mean, this scene was written by Saywood and not Holmes.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not sure if he's going to survive this. He's not sure if he's going to regenerate. The companions show up to encourage him to regenerate. And then in his mind, the master shows up and tells him to die. I mean, much as we've given a hard time to the Ainley master, I actually really like that he shows up as that other side of his psyche saying, no, you're not going to make it.
Okay, you like that.
I liked it too. I thought that the camp that Ainley delivers all the time, nonstop, worked for Fever Dream of him.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it actually felt appropriate instead of campy this time.
But like the master laughs at Adric showing up.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was funny.
Adric, oh, no, my dear doctor, you must die.
Do you want to hear my first reaction to this new doctor when he finally shows up?
Yes.
Because he sounds like an asshole.
Oh, he's wonderfully arrogant right from the get-go.
Oh, wow. The words that came out of his mouth, I was like, I thought we just got past a doctor who was really mean to his companions, and now this one seems like he might be worse. Oh.
Well, our last line is the Sixth Doctor saying, change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon. And that's the end of our story. And we get Colin's face in the closing credits.
Right.
I know how excited Diana is for the next story in 2 seasons.
I'm so happy. I loved it. That our first scene with 6 was just so good.
I have no idea what we're about to get into. I am in there with completely open mind. I really don't like his hair, though. I really don't like his hair a lot.
I loved how they like cut it up on the sides, almost faded it to be like a curly top cut. The way that he popped up made me giggle. It was so funny.
So with that, let's go into our running metrics. And last time we did agree to start the Perry peril count.
All right.
I think we started it counting the number of times that Perry was in peril, but the problem with this story is Perry is constantly in peril. So do we give it 4 to reflect 4 episodes? Do we give it 10 out of 10? Like, how do we want to...
I think per episode. So like for each episode in a serial that she doesn't get it, we just don't count it, no matter how many times it may happen in one. So it's just like, how many episodes is Perry put in peril?
4.
4. There we are.
All of them.
Yes.
So every time we do a Perry in peril, it's going to be 4 out of 4.
An
max.
episode count.
Okay.
Planet of Fire did only get 3, but yes.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way to do that.
Yeah.
7 out of 8.
Now, next season, where we do go into 45-minute episodes for one season only, we might have to,
Okay.
break that down into
Right.
2 per episode, but we'll see how it goes.
And plus, in this one, I would have been like, well, she's dying. You've got her almost being executed. I'll consider that one. And then just Jek in general
Yep.
is causing peril. So she's close to it without even doing it per episode.
Yeah, I mean, she's
Mhm.
constantly in peril, this story. Quarry, we have a quarry.
Mhm.
It's our
Yay.
3rd quarry of the Davison era in the Lost Story. 0 jelly babies. Did anyone catch I'll explain later's? I didn't.
Mm-mm.
All right. I think that's more of a 6th Doctor era thing. Camp count, I have 2 for this. One is Salatine's uncontrollable laughter,
Okay.
and the other is the Master showing up.
Yep.
Can I give like a little bit to Stotts?
Yeah, you want to do
Mhm.
a half or a full point?
Just a half, because he doesn't quite get into full camp mode,
Oh,
but
okay.
unless you guys think so, and I'll give him a 1, by all means.
No, I think a half is appropriate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Diana, any nominations?
I was thinking potentially Morgus's turn to stare down the camera. It crosses like
Yeah.
kind of into camp in that same, I would maybe give it like a 0.5.
All right, then that rounds us up to 3. We have
Yep.
effectively 2 instances of camp and 2 half instances of camp. And with that, we move into scoring this, and I have the absolute pleasure of going first. And I have to say, I think this story is incredible. I think it's one of the best things we have seen in a really, really long time. The performances are outstanding. The level of tension is incredible. The fact that absolutely no one in this story, bar the Doctor and Perry, are redeemable, for some reason just gives it a level of grit that we've missed throughout this nice Doctor's era. The supposedly nice, the supposedly mild-mannered Doctor who's occasionally a dick to his companions. Speaking of which, Davison's incredible in this. The dialogue he has is fantastic. The only real downsides are what happens to Perry, and for me, that's not even enough to bring it down. I truly believe this is one of the finest examples of Doctor Who, and this gets 10 out of 10 instances of urticaria from me.
Wow.
Julie, you're up next.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say it up front. This is not going to get a 10 out of 10 for me. I really did enjoy this. You could tell that the feel was different from the get-go, and it felt really good. I did enjoy most of the direction, except for a few things here and there. I really liked the story itself. The writing was good. The actors were some of the best actors I've seen in Doctor Who for a very long time. And there was this really good chemistry between the Doctor and his companion. A lot of good things going on. However, I have to dock it some points for some of that stuff with Jek and Perry, because I think they crossed a little bit of a line and it didn't need to go that far. I am just going to only bring it down a little bit, though, for that. And so I'm going to give it 9 times Julie felt like taking a shower out of 10.
Reilly, you're up next.
Well, let's see. Good direction, great writing, great performances. If there's the one couple of things that made me want to deduct points from this, and I don't know if it's necessarily fair because this is an issue that I've had with previous Last Doctor stories. And it's unfortunate because they didn't really have much of a choice here. One, I feel like these regeneration serials need to have a bit more of a inner emotional, I guess, discussion or a talk or something. There needs to be a bit more emotion into it, maybe a little more melodrama. And I felt like that was missing here. It was a little bit there at the end where we have our faces of our past companions, but that immediately gets undercut by the Master showing up because They have to give me the master when I don't want them to show up. They want to give them to me. But I enjoyed it. I can't say that it's one that I really think is just absolutely amazingly great and I want to watch it again and again and again. It's just, it feels like it's good to be back in a place where it's a good above average, very good episode. I just think I would have maybe gotten up to a higher score if there was more of an emotional interplay going on between the Doctor and his companion, with him dealing with each of their mortalities and how they deal with it. Or maybe if I had grown to love the Fifth Doctor, not just but 5 or 6 weeks ago, maybe this would have had more of an emotional resonance with me. But overall, it's very, very good. So I'm going to give it 8 fumigated squatties out of 10.
All right. And last but not least, Diana.
I thoroughly loved this story. I really, really wish that Jek had just been a serial killer, because I would be up there with you, Anthony. This would be a 10 out of 10. But I just can't deal with that much of this storyline being about that kind of a risk and that kind of a threat, because it's not only unneeded, but I also think poorly used, which is such a shame because they use his ballerina skills so well in the threat and scariness of his character that I don't think they needed all of that extra groping to make him terrifying. He was scary. His outfit was terrifying, and he also looked real good in it, which is a conflict. There was already so much of that in there that I don't think they needed to make it so overt, which definitely brings my score down for the story. But other than that, it's so well written. I love the flowery language. I really loved the conciseness that the script held, where I didn't need all of the backgrounds on all of the characters. The only thing that I was told was what I needed to know. And it worked so well, and it was so well done. And I loved the intro for 6 there at the end. And I thought the regeneration was to my liking, at least. I thought it was well done. And so I still give it 9 permanently lactating chiropteras out of 10.
And that gives us a story average of 9 out of 10, which does make it the second highest scoring story of the Fifth Doctor's run after the 5 Doctors. Well, with that, we will be back next time for our Davison retrospective, where we will once again be joined by the venerable Alan Seiler, who will MC that. But until then, thank you so very much for listening. And until next time, of course, have a good one. You have been listening to Watchers in the Fourth Dimension with Diana Burney, Reilly Schreck, Julie Philippek, and myself, Anthony Williams. This episode, an unending use of SAT words, was recorded on Wednesday the 18th of February 2026. If this is your first time listening into the show, all of our previous episodes are available wherever you like to get your podcasts. You can interact with us on Facebook and Instagram at Watchers4D, by email at watchers4d@gmail.com, and on our Discord server, and a link to that is in the show blurb. If you're enjoying the show, please do subscribe and consider leaving us a review or rating on your favorite podcasting app. All of those things really do help the show. And always remember, no, my dear Doctor, you must die. Die, Doctor, die.